Hi there, welcome to the Healing Migraines Naturally podcast. I'm Dr. Leslie Caesar, and I am a naturopathic doctor who specializes in working with women who have chronic migraines to help them restore their health so that their body stops generating the migraines. They can get off their medication, get off their fistful of supplements that they're taking. And I do this because I used to be a chronic migraine sufferer as well. So I wanted to jump on today because I was on my Facebook feed and I got an ad, and because I am in nearly all of the Facebook migraine groups, I have a free Facebook group that you're welcome to join too called Healing Migraines Naturally with Leslie Caesar ND. So Facebook knows that I have an interest in migraines, so I get a lot of migraine content on my Facebook feed. So I was on the feed and I got an advertisement for a new miracle migraine supplement. So I was like, oh boy, I really got to check this out. So, everyone is looking for the holy grail, right? What is like the one supplement that I need to take to get rid of these migraines, right? So, spoiler alert, okay, there isn't just one miracle migraine supplement. I wish there were. I wish that I had found the secret herb from the Amazon that no one else knows about that would magically take your migraines away. I really wish I were the one that had found that, okay, because then I would just be kicking back and so on. But we're never going to find it, okay? So here we go. Here's an advertisement for the next miracle migraine supplement. Okay, so I was like, all right, let me check this out. So I went on the website, and first of all, I was blown away by the cost. Okay, so this is it's like a little powder that you would put in water. Like, this is kind of popular right now. We're kind of in the era of like Element and Liquid, and like a lot of things are now being packaged instead of in capsules. They're being packaged, the little powder packs that you put in your water. We're in that era now. So this is like right on trend, right? It's in these little packs and you put it in your water and you take one a day. So, it was over $100 for 30 of these little, I was like, holy cow, is this expensive? You thought Element was expensive or Liquid IV, right? So, in any case, that's how it's packaged. The price point was quite high. And so I was like, all right, what's in this thing, right? Do we have like gold powder in here? Like what do they have in here? So there's a lot of multivitamins and minerals in the powder. So from that perspective, the vitamins and minerals in the product are very similar to what you would take in like a multivitamin. I would say the amounts are right in line with what you would get in like a multivitamin. So there really wasn't anything that was sort of like cutting edge or standing out type. If you were to get like a Thorne multivitamin or something like that, it would be very equivalent to what they have in here. But so there were two things that they were really touting as sort of like the breakthrough, okay? And so those two things, one of which were ketones, okay? So there were ketones in the product, and then there was a sugar called ribose in the product, okay? So you've probably heard of ketones because the keto diet, okay, is very popular in the migraine community. A lot of migraine sufferers are told to eat a ketogenic diet, okay? So many of you have probably heard about ketones. And then ribose is a sugar, okay? So glucose is the main sugar in the plants that we eat, but then there's also ribose sugar, okay? So it's a little bit different molecular structure than glucose. Glucose has 6 carbons and ribose has 5 carbons. So those are the two unique things that are in the product. So the website had like a little write-up as to why they put these things in the product, okay? So the website made the claim that our brain prefers to use ketones or ketone bodies as its fuel. And I was really surprised to see this because that's false. Our brain prefers to use glucose as its primary, you could call it a fuel, but technically glucose is like a nutrient that your cells use, every cell in your body uses glucose to generate cellular energy, okay? In a multiple step biochemical process, it uses glucose to do that. So your brain is no exception. Your brain prefers to use glucose. It doesn't prefer to use ketones or ketone bodies. It can if there's an emergency. So when we fast, and in the past, we humans would have been fasting pretty frequently because if there's no food, you're going to be fasting, right? So if you're in a famine, if food is scarce, right, around the world even today, billions of people don't have access to, consistent 3 times a day food like we do in America. So, fasting, going without food, famine, starvation, this is something that we had to be prepared for. And so if we go without eating, if we fast, we're going to go into a state of ketosis, okay? So this is a different type of metabolism that our body shifts into, and it'll start to burn our fat stores, and when it sort of burns the fat, it liberates what are called ketone bodies or ketones, and your brain can use that as a fuel source if there's an emergency. Okay, so this is so that we just don't drop dead if there's no food to eat, but it's not the preferred fuel. This is very well known. So I was really surprised that the website said this. And when those ketones are present, right, that's signaling to the body that there's we're in a problem situation. We're in a famine, or we're not in a normal situation. Okay. So this is a hypothesis that I have. I wouldn't say that this is, quote unquote, settled science, but, we have to start thinking about how our body, our body's a very complex system. And so if we start introducing, if there's a lot of bodies in our bloodstream, wouldn't our body think that we're in an emergency situation, that we're in a stressful situation, and then start adapting other things to that so that we can survive the famine or survive the stressful situation. With a ketogenic diet in the 80s, it was called the Atkins diet, named after Dr. Atkins, who developed the approach, and he recommended it for diabetics. But really, the ketogenic diet or the keto diet is really just the Atkins diet with a rebranding of the name. So again, in the migraine community, many people have been recommended to eat this way. You severely limit the plant intake. So plants are very glucose-rich foods. All plants contain glucose. So you limit the amount of plants that you eat. And then you're going to limit the amount of glucose that you're eating, and that's going to flip your body into this famine state. Your body, it doesn't have enough glucose to function, and so it's going to start burning your fat and liberating these ketone bodies, and then your cells are going to start using those ketone bodies for fuel. Okay. If you're diabetic, if you want to get your blood sugar down quick, stop eating glucose. It's pretty simple. And so Dr. Atkins developed that way of eating specifically for diabetics. And if people want to burn through a lot of their fat and, quickly reduce their body fat, the keto diet can be a way of doing that. It may or may not work very well for people, because if your body is hanging on to that fat for a reason, even doing a ketogenic diet, you might not get sort of miraculous results from it. Now, because this way of eating has been around now for decades, there's been a lot of studies on the long-term effects of ketogenic diet. And particularly for women, it's been shown that this is really not the best long-term way of eating, because it can severely disrupt our hormones, not just our sex hormones, but our adrenal hormones. When the body is in a state of ketosis, it's indicating that we are basically like in a famine. So if you're eating this way, you may be eating enough calories, but because you've severely limited your glucose intake, your body is going to think that it's in a famine. And so then it's going to increase the production of your stress hormones, your adrenaline and your cortisol that your adrenals make. And particularly for women, if you keep on this for long term, you can burn out your adrenals. Your adrenals are not, we're not supposed to be in a constant state of emergency. We're supposed to have an emergency, and then hopefully the emergency passes and things get back to normal. But if you're eating a ketogenic diet for months and months, and your body thinks for months and months we're in like a severe famine, crisis situation, and it keeps pumping that adrenaline and cortisol out, you can really deplete your adrenal glands, and then you've got all this excess cortisol and adrenaline. It can impact the production of sex hormones. So they have done studies on this, and they have found that women are more prone to these sort of, negative aspects than men, which really makes sense because we women, right, we are supposed to have more body fat. And in a famine, right, it's the top priority for women to get the most food to survive, right? Because we are going to carry on the species. You have to maintain the population of women in order to, survive some sort of life-threatening situation, okay? One man, can impregnate many women, but women are sort of the limiting factor for population growth, right? Because we have usually one baby at a time, and it takes 9 months to produce one, right? So you have to keep the women alive. So it would make sense that in a famine, we would have evolved or been designed to, okay, we're going to give the women and the children the food first, etc. So our body is really not designed to withstand that type of long famine or fasting. So this is my hypothesis. I wouldn't say that this is, again, settled science, but what can we extrapolate, just logically from things? So in any case, a lot of migraine sufferers have been told the only way out of your migraines is to go into ketosis, eat a ketogenic diet, and for the rest of your life, you're never going to be able to have a cookie or a piece of birthday cake or a soda pop at a ball game. Number one, it's not necessary, okay? I eat like a regular, well-rounded diet, and I don't get migraines anymore. So it's totally not necessary. And then number two, who can actually do that? I mean, a certain percentage of the population can be that disciplined and that sacrificing, but most of us, we're going to want to have a cookie or a piece of birthday cake at some point in our life, right? So it's really not realistic, and it's not necessary, right? So in any case, ketone bodies or ketones are not the preferred fuel for the brain. Glucose is. Our brain can use ketone bodies if there's an emergency as its initial nutrient that it uses to generate cellular energy, but it would prefer to use glucose, okay? So I was a little shocked to see that on the website. I don't understand why they would say that, okay? This is very settled biochemistry and just inexplicable to me. There are health conditions like if people have brain cancer, if they have severe epilepsy, there are studies that show that those people will do much better as far as cancer remission, as far as epilepsy and frequency of epileptic attacks, that if they do go into a state of ketosis permanently or for a very long period of time. But, migraines are not brain cancer, thank God. Migraines are not epilepsy, thank God. We don't have to go to those extremes, trust me, to get rid of our migraines, okay? So that's what I would say about the ketones that are in this product. Women with weekly migraines, if you're having 8 or more migraine days a month, I'll show you how to drop them to near zero in 90 days without adding more medication, or I work with you until you do. My client Katie is a 35-year-old wife and mother of 2 who was struggling with severe migraines that affected every aspect of her life: work, home, and social. She had tried it all, every drug and natural therapy out there. None of it helped, and she was only getting worse. In the beginning, she was skeptical, but she trusted and followed the 12-week plan and got incredible results. She said she finally feels like her normal self again after suffering with migraines for over a decade. She has never felt more alive because she can finally be the mom she always knew she could be. I have worked with women just like Katie from all across the United States overcome migraines naturally. If you are serious about healing your migraines naturally, then tap the link in the description and book a free consult call. We do cap new clients monthly, so if the calendar's full, the doors are closed for now. So don't wait to reclaim the life you deserve to live. There is healing available for you. I look forward to chatting. Click the link now to schedule your call. And then the second sort of more unique thing in this product was the ribose sugar. So ribose is also a nutrient that is used in this biochemical process to make cellular energy. So to make this ATP molecule, the body takes glucose and it converts it to ribose sugar. That's one of the multiple steps in the process. Okay, so what the product is claiming is that if you consume the ribose, you're sort of doing like a shortcut, right? So you don't need the glucose, you can just supplement the ribose, and then you don't have to go through so many steps to make the cellular energy. That would be sort of like the rationale for including the ribose in the product. Okay, so a couple things on this. So number one, we can get ribose sugar in the foods that we eat. It's particularly prominent in animal foods. So we can consume ribose in the food that we eat, but we can make ribose. So again, we don't want a body that requires, $129 a month supplements, okay? This is like basic biochemistry that every cell in the body, this is like kindergarten level for the cell, okay? Like this is not complex stuff. This isn't like, advanced cellular calculus. This is like cellular kindergarten, converting glucose to ribose, okay? The body should be able to do what it is supposed to do without supplementation, okay? Sometimes we need a little supplementation, right, to just overcome a deficiency or something like that. I'm not saying that there's never a time or a place for a nutrient supplement, but like a lot of the nutrients and nutrient supplements right now, our body is supposed to make. So again, if our body's struggling to make something and we can take a little nutrient supplement for that, great, thank God we have it. We can kind of fill in the gap. But we want to encourage our body to be able to do the functions that it is supposed to do, right? So a lot of times with these types of supplements where we're supplementing something that the body is supposed to do or make, we're actually handicapping the body. So I'm going to use a very common example within the natural medicine space, which is supplemental hydrochloric acid. Okay, so you're probably aware our stomach makes hydrochloric acid, and we need hydrochloric acid in the stomach to start the digestive process in the stomach and properly break the food down and prepare the food so that when the food goes into the small intestine, it's properly broken down, and then the pancreatic enzymes will come into the small intestine, and the food is ready to be broken down by enzymes. So first, if you want to get technical, at first the food starts getting broken down by the saliva in our mouth. And then we've got the stomach acid. That we've got to have enough stomach acid to really prepare the food so that when it goes in the small intestine, those pancreatic enzymes, they have the right kind of, prepared food to work well. Okay. So most people are aware of this. So within the natural medicine industry, a lot of times we will identify based on symptoms, sometimes based on testing, that there's low hydrochloric acid production in the stomach. Okay. And this is actually something that I run across pretty frequently with my clientele. I could tell based on their symptoms that they don't have enough hydrochloric acid production in their stomach. Has gotten a little sluggish, a little behind. It's just not able to make enough hydrochloric acid to properly prepare the food. So most natural medicine practitioners, when they see this symptom picture and they kind of pick up that pattern, they pick up that signal, it looks like we've got a hydrochloric acid deficiency issue going on here. Most natural medicine practitioners are going to supplement hydrochloric acid. You can buy like tablets that have hydrochloric acid in them, and you can take them, and then that goes into your stomach and it boosts up the amount of hydrochloric acid in your stomach. So that is considered a solution by a lot of natural medicine practitioners. But I don't call that a solution. I call that a natural Band-Aid, because your stomach should make enough acid, right? So what I do is I use typically herbs that encourage your stomach to make more stomach acid, so that your stomach is getting that signal, make more acid, make more acid. I'm also looking at, are there any habits? Do you have some habits during mealtime that would interfere with that hydrochloric acid production? Again, let's really look at why isn't this being produced? And also, your stomach has to have the nutrients that it needs to actually make the hydrochloric acid. So many times the root of it is just a nutrient deficiency that is preventing the stomach from actually making the hydrochloric acid. So we need to maybe introduce a little bit more nutrient-rich food, or just the overall state of the digestive function is poor and there's a nutrient deficiency just because of that. So as we work on the whole digestive tract and getting everything up and running, and then the stomach is going to get more nutrients to it from the food that you're eating, and then it just starts making more acid, right? Things start working properly with that type of approach. If you're just going to give a capsule of stomach acid and call it a day, we're not actually correcting the problem. And in fact, you can promote what I call lazy stomach, right? Because your stomach is like, well, if you're just going to give me a capsule of hydrochloric acid, why should I make this, right? So in the natural medicine industry, a lot of supplements do this. They generate a lazy organ, because instead of really getting to the root of why the organ isn't functioning properly, isn't really pulling its weight, isn't making all the stuff or doing all the things it's supposed to do, they just give a supplement that kind of replaces the organ function. This would be the same with pancreatic enzymes. You can take capsules of pancreatic enzymes. Well, shouldn't my pancreas make the enzymes? What's preventing my pancreas from making the enzymes? So again, if there's a temporary reason to use something like this, that's fine. But this is not a long-term solution. This is like a little natural Band-Aid or a little natural bridge. But, a bridge is great as long as we're actually going to cross the river and get to the other side and get to the destination. We don't want to stay on a bridge for the rest of our life. We want to get over to the other side, right? So a lot of supplements these days are using this type of approach where, instead of why isn't your, let's go with their hypothesis that your brain is somehow, not making enough ATP from the glucose, or they think from the ketone bodies, which again, your cells can make energy from ketone bodies, but it's not ideal. But, with their hypothesis, well, your brain isn't making enough ATP, cellular energy, so let's give you these nutrients so that we can take some shortcuts here, and that should help things. Well, it's why wouldn't my brain be able to take the glucose and turn it into ribose and then continue the rest of the biochemical reactions to ultimately make the ATP? That's really what we should be thinking about. Okay. So I hope this helps. I hope this helps you break down some of the erroneous thinking within the natural medicine industry. Okay. A lot of people find me and they think I'm going to be really critical of the pharmaceutical industry. Certainly everyone knows that just, medicating your way through this is not treating the root cause. Everybody knows that. They're just taking medications because they're desperate to not be in bed all day with a migraine, and they're just, feeling like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. I think everybody realizes that, but so then they're looking for, the root cause solution, and they think they're going to find that in a natural supplement. Okay. And this is where people are being, they're kind of being led astray a little bit. The natural medicine industry in general doesn't really think through. They say they're getting to the root cause, but they're not really getting to root cause solutions. And I'm in the natural medicine industry, so I think I should be more critical of my industry than another industry. Okay, so I hope this kind of gives you a little insight into how to think through these things. The final comment that I'll make is if we're taking this is basically like a vitamin powder that you put in your water for, $4 a day. Okay, so let me ask you, why couldn't you just eat food and get those nutrients? If someone is so nutrient deficient that they have to put their nutrients in a glass of water, from a little powder, they're not breaking their food down and getting their food out of their nutrients, okay? Or they're not getting their nutrients out of their food. So we should be able to eat food, a wide variety of food, not just, migraine food, special migraine diets. We should be able to eat a wide variety of food, and then we should have good enough digestive function that we can break the food down and get the nutrients out of the food. And then we have to be able to get those nutrients into the blood and circulated to the cells, okay? This is a high-level overview of what I call the first principle to restoring your health and stop getting migraines. So we should be able to do all of this just with the food that we eat. So if we need supplemental nutrients, okay, that's because our digestion is not functioning well and we can't break our food down and get the nutrients out of our food. So if you take supplemental nutrients, are you going to be able to get those nutrients into your body? You got to get it through your digestive tract, okay? Our digestive tract is designed to get nutrients out of food. It's not designed to get nutrients, isolated, synthetic nutrients. It's designed to deal with actual living food, with vital nutrients in the food. That's what it's designed to work with, not these synthetic, concentrated, isolated nutrients. And you can't put all of the nutrients that are in foods in a powder or a capsule. There's thousands of nutrients in the food that we eat. You can't put that in a gummy, in a little powder, in a capsule. There's no way you can replace that, okay? It's a drop in the bucket. If you're going to take a nutrient, a multivitamin, these little nutrient powders that you put in your water, that's a drop in the bucket. I mean, maybe there were 30 nutrients in this product. You're eating thousands of nutrients every day. And again, are you going to absorb any of this? Are you going to get any of this into your body? If you can't get the nutrients from your food into your body, you're not going to get it in through a powder or a capsule or a gummy, I guarantee you. So I hope this helps. I hope this gives you a little bit of understanding of how to think this through and start to think about, how is our body supposed to function? What environment is our body designed to function well in? How does this complex system all tie together, etc.? So let me know in the comments if you've ever tried some of these miracle migraine supplements and what your experience has been. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great day.